What's up, Your Highness? How are you doing?
Thank you for greeting me properly.
It only took an entire hour and a half episode for me to get it right.
Imperious Rex.
Imperious
But,
Rex.
that's all I can say. Imperious Rex.
Oh, okay. Oh,
It's
okay.
said by the Atlantean royal bloodline. So descendants of Neptune himself.
All
So
right. Well,
I'll
there
give you
you
a pass though. You've been such a great host. I'll give you a pass. This is once. First
just
off
this
to the
once.
faithful one.
Just as
So.
once. Well, it's fortuitous that you said that because I had no idea that's what Imperious
Yeah.
Rex was the origin for. And this episode here today, it's 2 of 2. We are going to be discussing Namor's history
Yes.
and sort of do a deep dive again. I know into his character, and we're gonna talk about his origins. We're gonna do a brief history, and then we're gonna dive into it.
Awesome. I'm so excited. This is what I live for. So.
Yeah, so we're doing a deep dive into Namor's history with the king of Atlantis himself, Namorcosplay.
Hey. Part two.
We are recording back to back. You are being a champion right now, but
I
I
love
mean,
to talk, so I could go on for hours. My mind just knows way too much information. So
good. Well, we're gonna extract that information right now because we're gonna be talking about Namor, and I'm gonna kick us off with a really quick paragraph. Namor was created by Bill Everett and first appeared in April 1939 in Motion Picture Funnies Weekly. Everett said the inspiration for Namor came from the poem The Rime of the Ancient Mariner and came up with Namor on his own, thinking that the name sounded very noble and regal. And that's how we got the name Namor. And eventually the character made it to Timely Comics, which was Marvel's predecessor. And he was one of the big 3 characters they were pushing at the time, the other 2 being the OG Human Torch and Captain America. He was Captain America, which you've also cosplayed as. You haven't done Human Torch yet.
no, I'm gonna Photoshop that in somewhere. So.
But Namor has traditionally been an anti-hero. He's been a lover. He's been a friend. He's been a king. He's been a foe to many. He's been with Sue Storm, which we know you love that.
Nope.
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 All the way through to Emma Frost. So he's had a rich history, and the king himself is going to kick us off with it.
Fun fact actually, Namor isn't just a regal name. It's Roman spelled backwards.
Oh, look at that.
And he has little ankle wings because it's supposed to be like Hermes, the god, to kind of display him as a god. And the original Namor, like when he first was released, it was like he had like red hair because at the time red hair was seen as devilish, and he wanted to kind of have him be like perceived as like he's not just a hero, he's got a darker side. So that's why I gave him red hair, and they eventually changed to black. But little facts about his character that most people don't know. So.
Well, I am blown away that Namor is Roman spelled backwards.
Yeah.
I've never absorbed that at all. Thank you.
Yeah. It's very real. It's all about that. But yeah, so I mean, let's talk about mine. I'll give everyone a little quick history, which I wrote a paragraph which ended up being a couple because there's just so much. He's been around since 1939, before Aquaman. Let me tell all of you that first. So guess who's a copy? Aquaman's a copy. Guess who's first?
Namor's the first.
There we go.
There we go.
Anyway,
took me a second. I'm like, wait, who?
I got my hands out to you. It's like you gotta answer. Anyway, Namor is a submariner. His thing is like, he's the spawn of 2 worlds, yet fated to belong to none. That was kind of his. When you first opened up a comic book and they had like a little blurb, that was kind of what they kind of started with, and I really think that's a beautiful aspect to think about because his father, Captain Leonard Mackenzie, was on an expedition in Antarctica when the explosives his crew were using broke through the ice, and unbeknownst below, there was Atlantis, and that's where Atlantis was based. They're under Antarctica, and the explosives kind of caused some destruction, so they sent Princess Fen, the beautiful Princess Fen, to go investigate, and she fell in love with Captain Mackenzie. But when she didn't return, her father, Emperor Thakor, sent troops up, and Captain Mackenzie died.
No.
So Namor's dad died, unfortunately, but she came back to Atlantis, and she had a son named Namor, and that means the Avenging Son in Atlantean. So he is the spawn of the surface and the sea, which no one thought was possible, which is a huge thing for them. But anyway, he grew up in Atlantis, and he dealt with hardship because he was also pink-skinned, and the Atlanteans are blue. Not to mention, he was also the first mutant. In case anyone was curious, the ankle wings on his feet, that's a genetic mutation. And he's also stronger than the average Atlantean, swim faster, thick skin, bulletproof, can fly. But when he first started, he was he was still very young, he was very green, but he wanted to prove himself to his grandfather at the core. And so he went to the surface world to hope to conquer it in the name of Atlantis. And those first surface interactions were, it was a big deal back at the time when he interacted with Human Torch, and they crossed over comics, and they were just like the first iconic frenemy battles through in the Golden Age, and they're iconic together, him and Jim Hammond, the original Human Torch. But also he met the lovely Betty Dean, that is I'd say one of his first loves besides Dorma. She kind of showed him the beauty of the surface world, and kind of calmed him and quelled him a little bit. It was kind of his conscience a little bit, so he wasn't as just destructive. So he kind of has a huge relationship with Betty Dean in terms of just seeing the world in a different viewpoint than just being Atlantean. But anyway, what's really great about him is later on he put aside his hatred to the surface. During World War II, he joined the efforts with the invaders, with Captain America, the original Human Torch, and also Bucky Barnes and Toro were on it as well. Those are the sidekicks. And Namor also joined. Anyway, he thought that World War II was bigger threat than just the surface world. So he joined and kind of became a hero. He's a war hero, which is great. Not many people know that, surprisingly. They just think the past decade. But anyway, his homecoming after that, after the war was over, was kind of short-lived. The villain Destiny, he had an ensuing battle with him, and that ended up destroying Atlantis, killed his grandfather and his mother, and he had amnesia, and then spent years in limbo, comic limbo, and he was eventually rediscovered in Fantastic Four when Johnny Storm discovered him as a homeless man, threw him into the sea, and he's like, Imperious Rex, and just comes back to life and remembers everything. But anyway, then the Silver Ages after that, it was Namor on all these adventures, both above and below the sea, like the quest for the Trident. He attacked the surface world many times, as he does. And, the wrongdoing of his people, and just how he got affected by that. There's also a lot of Atlantean struggles as well. There's many coup attempts by Warlord Krang and his evil stepbrother Byra. And there's also people who challenge the crown from the outskirts, like Atuma. He's the king of the barbarians. He's a total badass. And my favorite villain is Tiger Shark. He's one of his biggest villains. Also, he's an Olympic swimmer who got an injury from saving a drowning person, and he wanted to get back into it. So they, Dr. Dorcas injected him with Tiger Shark DNA and Namor's DNA, and became a villain. He's going crazy. And that was that. But the heart of the Silver Age that not many people know about is Lady Dorma. She is the icon. She is the queen. She is the love of his life. It's a relationship spans since childhood. They are together in the Golden Age. They're fated to be together. Unfortunately, when the villainess Lyra comes into play, she not only kills his father, which he found out was alive, and it's so tragic because he finds out his father's alive and has this brief moment of reuniting with him, and then he dies, which is really sad. He gets killed. But Lyra also killed Lady Dorma, and it was heartbreaking, and oh man, poor guy. But then later on, after that whole his 1 through 63, 68, one of those, was over. He got a miniseries in 1984 called Prince Namor the Submariner, and that was kind of a really great story in terms of developing him as a king, and it kind of played on as a restless king. He didn't want to be on the throne. He was really interested in exploring his surface side and what it meant to be half surface and half Atlantean. And eventually he gets his wish on, because of the events that are happening and what was going on with the villains or the antagonists, he gets voted out of Atlantis by the High Council because he's not there, he's not present. But it's beautiful because in the 90s, in the Jay Lee run, he kind of gets to explore himself as a surface man and interacting with people on the surface and becoming more of a human, I guess. We actually learn that his kind of outbreaks and his like temper is because of an imbalance in his blood, because he's half Atlantean and half human or half surface. So he has to spend an hour each day in order to get his levels right, which is a really cool thing I learned, or you learn when you read it. But anyway, when he was up on the surface, he also became CEO of a company called Oracle to help the oceans in a new way. And he actually funded that through finding ocean treasures, out in the sea, from shipwrecks. So I think that's really interesting. But then eventually, around Savage Submariner, which not my favorite era, the art is really grungy. It's, I don't like the long hair. But anyway, he returns to Atlantis to reclaim the throne from Sumaket. He's like this ancient evil who the dark history of Atlantis and where it came from. He returns after all these years, and he has to find the strength to come back and defeat him, and he does. And he comes back a more mature king. And he kind of thrives again with Atlantis for a while. He goes with the Defenders occasionally. He reunited with the Invaders, which was great. I love him with the Invaders. And he also teams up with his best friend in the whole world, Dr. Doom. Those two are really interesting together because they both know they're going to fuck each other over in the end, but they still get together in the end. Just, I don't know. But then the tides turn yet again when Namor is framed for a terrorist attack in Kansas. And so S.H.I.E.L.D. and Tony Stark are complete assholes. And they're just like, it's you. And we want to occupy Atlantis. And he's like, I didn't do it. So he goes to try to prove himself innocent. And things go haywire, and he has to sacrifice his people and his city. So he evacuates the people from the city and blows up Atlantis to get off S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar. And his people are to the wind, he's to the wind. And it's kind of a new life for him. And thus begins his time with the X-Men and Utopia era. So,
yeah. And so Namor joins Osborn's Dark X-Men, and a retcon of a relationship with Emma Frost is established. And of course, Emma Frost is the White Queen of the Hellfire Club. And as part of the Dark X-Men, they seize San Francisco, which is experiencing massive violence and riots from anti-mutant protesters for Proposition X, which is a statute that was trying to be passed that limited mutant reproduction rights. But best part about this is that Namor and Emma pulled a fast one on Osborn because they were secretly working in cahoots with our boy Cyclops, who was the leader of the X-Men. And then he joins the X-Men officially, not the Dark X-Men, the actual X-Men, as they go off and establish Utopia, which is one of the islands the X-Men occupy during their many decades long run. Currently they're now in Krakoa. Before Krakoa, there was Utopia. And Namor takes residence up there. And yes, there's a lot of tension between him, Emma, and Scott. But things start getting a little bit more interesting with Namor when the X event, Schism, happens, which sees Wolverine and Cyclops going at odds ideologically, and they end up fighting, and the end result is that the X-Men divide. So Namor remains on Utopia because he's here I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here on Utopia. And he becomes part of Cyclops' extinction team. And this is sort of the beginning of a larger story with Namor during this era, because He is tasked with helping preserve the mutants in a world where they're on the verge of extinction. This is right after Wanda casted her decimation spell, and 99% of the world's mutants were decimated. So in this era, he does get his own solo run. He forms a friendship with the mutant messiah, Hope Summers, who was the only baby born since the decimation with an active X gene. So she was raised in the future by Cable. She comes back, and her and Namor sort of have this very touching, loving friendship. And eventually, during the events of Avengers versus X-Men, when Tony Stark blows up the Phoenix Force, a fraction of the Phoenix goes into Namor and he becomes part of the Phoenix Five. And this is an extremely notable part of his history because he lays waste to Wakanda. And it puts him at odds with Black Panther. And we all know what the rumors are right now with Black Panther 2. But eventually the Phoenix does leave him and he returns to Atlantis. And of course, he has his own adventures, which include being part of the reformed Illuminati, which Black Panther founded. But he also gets beheaded. But it's okay because he gets better thanks to Warrior Woman. But his next big run in with the X-Men, it happens during X-Men Red when the resurrected Jean Grey comes back. And she seeks asylum in Atlantis after Cassandra Nova frames Jean in the media for decapitating a diplomat. So they establish a base in Atlantis called Cerebro, but that's spelled SEA. And eventually they go toe-to-toe with Cassandra Nova and they are victorious. So we've seen Namor recently at the Hellfire Gala, where he shaded Magneto and Xavier, saying that he doesn't need to be part of the mutant nation of Krakoa because he is a king and he owns 70% of the planet. And boom, that's the last time I saw Namor.
Yeah. Firstly, can I just say some grievances? Why didn't he get a Hellfire Gala look? He showed up in his everyday armor. I feel like he's the kind of dude who would show up and dress as this shit. He is like, he would be Emma Frost level with different outfits. I feel like he should have worn a cape or something. Like his usual armor. Like, there was so much potential there.
I agree. Look, dude, I agree. I'm sorry, I called you dude. Your Highness. Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Why didn't he have a good look? He is royalty. He's gonna show up. And I don't know, he came across so dicky in that. And I know we've talked about that in our previous episode of like, why are you writing him so flat like that? You know, like he's obviously was invested in the X-Men during the Utopian era. And now that he's seeing mutants, which he is half mutant, thriving. What's up here?
You're shocked. Like, here's the funny thing too. In Dan Slott's Fantastic Four, they use that line. It's like, I'm king of 70% of the world. They use that there too, and they came out with like the same like time frame. I was like, you can't think of anything else original. Like, he's friends with the mutants, but he should have just showed up. Like, even just to show up to be like, you know, hit on Emma Frost. Like, he should have just done that. Like, he's like, what's up?
Well, yeah, I don't think him and Emma even talked during the Hellfire Gala.
It was so quick. It was like boom, boom, boom. Like, give him a cape or something, please. Like, that's me, it's myself. Like,
well, I can talk about him at the Hellfire Gala till 5 a.m. and his relationship with Emma, because I do love that relationship. But we just kind of summed up a very decades-long history. 80 years. I'm curious, what the first thing I do want to tackle, because we were talking about this before we hit record on the Zoom, love interests for him. Something tells me you're a big fan of Lady Dorma for him.
Yes. My God, I think it's like when everyone talks about Namor, they say, like, oh, is it Sue Storm or Emma Frost? I'm just like, it's Lady Dorma. Like, you know, you got to read his books, his solo series. Namor works best as a solo, first off, in my opinion. But Lady Dorma is she is Atlantean. They have such a rich history together. They've had their ups and downs, no lie. They've had rough patches, but in the end, the love is there. I don't know how to best describe it. They're perfect for each other. They're just, they're badasses. They're the same person, I guess. I don't know how to best describe it, but I love them together. And she's just such a great character that I don't think she's gotten the recognition that she deserves, because she did die early on, like, and like midway through his solo run in his 1963 Submariner, and she hasn't come back. So
I haven't resurrected her in any way, shape, or form.
Kind of. There was a tease in this comic right here, that King in Black #5, the last issue in his miniseries by Kurt Busiek, and it was like modern day Namor swimming around. He's just like, one day we'll be reunited, like me, you, Atuma, and he's like, what? And like we're all like, wait, what? Is she coming back? Like so. If she does come back, I would love that, because people should know her, because she's, it's not just like I dislike other love interests, but I just think, she's like, almost like the OG. Like every comic book character has like a love interest that's just like their person. Like a lot of people love like Jean and Scott, even though I'm a Emma and Scott fan, but
Same.
Everyone loves those two together. Like Dorma and Namor are, that's that. I don't know how to describe it. She's just a badass, and she's also just like elegant, and she takes control of Atlantis at one point when Namor is gone. She just like grabs it, like riles everyone on the throne room. She's like, "We're gonna go, stop the Surfers. We're gonna save our king." Like she takes charge. She's not like, oh Namor, come save me, my love. Like, where are you? Like she's like let's fucking go. Like she sees things that no one else does. So.
Yeah. I mean, and her design, I mean, she truly looks regal. I mean, she's draped in red. She's got blue skin.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a dream cosplay duo. That's my main one I want to do. I need to find what Dorma to do.
You heard it here, folks. His Highness is looking for his Dorma.
I'm looking for my Dorma, guys. Like, she's like, look at her. She's an icon.
She is. She's an icon.
So that's what I think. So, and also to go on love interest, if you want to talk surface people, there's as we previously spoken in the last episode, is Betty Dean. She is the first surface woman he's ever met, and they have a great love story in terms of like, she's shown him the beauty of the surface and quelled his warlike tendencies when he first came to the surface. And there's also this beautiful tragedy written in Marvel Snapshots with them together, where she finds out Atlanteans live like more than 100 years, like a couple hundred, and she's just like, oh my God, like how am I gonna, like, we're never gonna get this life together, and it's so tragic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's like very heartbreaking, because it's like they both love each other, but like at the same time, she's kind of at a point in her life where she's getting older and she wants to settle down, but Namor's still like young, and he's just has all these like tendencies and stuff. So it's kind of hard to walk. Like it's like expiration on a friendship. There's even a book where she's old, like because she's been around since like I don't know, really the beginning. So.
Well, and I feel like narratives like that, I mean, that's something that was brought up in Buffy, with Buffy and Angel being a centuries-old vampire and Buffy being a 16-year-old girl, which now sounds really creepy saying out loud, but the idea is there. She will eventually one day grow old and die, and he will live on. And I love that idea of that melodrama. And I got to tell you, I've seen a photo of, and you're gonna don't hit me, please. I've seen photos of Betty before. I always thought it was Sue.
Yeah, I mean, he loves his blondes. I can't blame him. I'm a blonde man myself, so. I mean, it's easily to get confused. So it's not like I'm not like gonna be angry about that. So because not many people know about her because these are like Namor fandom people, because he's obviously not as popular. So
is she still around? Is she still on the surface? What's Betty Dean up to?
I don't think she's been around for a minute. the last time I can really recall, like there was like the Marvel snapshots, but that was just like a flashback, like post-war kind of storyline. She's in those storylines, but like modern age, the only mention of her was like when First Mutant, when he's meeting with Loa, and Loa's like grandmother, it was like best friends with Betty. So like when Namor finds Loa and then sees her, he's like, oh my god, like we were friends with Betty, and it's like it's that's probably the one that I can remember the most. So besides flashbacks, so I don't know what she's up to. So
All right, Betty. Well,
Betty,
Betty, come on, get out of that nursing. I guess she would be in a nursing home.
probably
I
she's
mean,
she's like in her 30s and post-war, so I'd assume so.
so
Like
get out of that
Carter.
nursing home, go to Krakoa, and get resurrected in a new body.
Yes,
It is will allow that. Maybe they'll make an exception for Namor. But if they are, then
yeah,
bring back Dorma.
yes. Please bring back Dormer. Out of everyone, that's who we should bring back the most.
What?
Because also like in the King in Black miniseries by Busiek, there's a young version of her, like because they follow like a young Namor, a Tuma, and a young Dorma, and she actually, fun fact, she saves the day. Like Namor is there in the background, but the person who stops the Black Tide, which is the villainous group, was Dorma. Like it was her. Like they all helped her, but she had the final blow. Like she wielded magic, and like she had like it was so cool. That's why I love her. Like and what they did with her, because it was Namor's book, but it was like she saved the day in the end. So she's great. People should know about her. And I hope they do.
What about Morina?
So she's okay. She's not my favorite, but she's like an alien. She was on Alpha Flight, I think, when they met Namor, but they got married and they had like whirlwind romance. But she is also a monster, and she eventually turns into a monster, and Namor has to tragically let her go because she can't control her anymore. She's wild, and she wasn't a person anymore. She was just like a wild creature. And also in like Dark Reign, Dark X-Men era, he had to kill her because Norman Osborn captured her and as like a monster and let him loose and like have like a sniff Atlantean blood. So he had to kill her. But even though she was like a monster, it was still hard for him. So he's loved and he's lost. So
our poor
he loves harder
boy.
than anyone in the world. So you wouldn't know it. So
She's probably the one, besides Sue and Emma, of his love interest that I've been exposed to the most and knew the most about, because she is a character that pops on page, and I've seen her, with him many times.
Yeah, that was his second wife. So that was like
second wife.
Yeah, his first time he found love again after Dorma. So it's like, no. They died again. As usual, he can never keep the love interest. They always die.
So we have Emma Frost and Sue Storm also as love interest. We know how you feel about Sue Storm.
Like Sue Storm, it's ridiculous. Drop it. Writers need to drop it. Like it just doesn't make sense anymore. Like it worked maybe at the beginning. It was like it happened and that was it. But he's like, he shouldn't be obsessing over one person. He's fucking Namor. He doesn't need her. Like he's been with much hotter people and much
like Emma Frost.
How do you get with that and be like, I think I like Sue Storm. Like
I love Sue Storm. Oh, she's so great.
Like, and it's also just like, why is he obsessing over one person? You can get anyone he wants. I think it's ridiculous. Like, get over it. Like writers need to get over that trope first.
Did he ever have flirtations with Wanda, or is that just the animated series?
Wanda?
Yeah. Scarlet.
Maxima?
Yeah. Scarlet Witch.
I don't think so. What animated series is this?
It was the one where they went underwater and he was briefly infatuated with Wanda. I want to say it was Earth's Mightiest Heroes, maybe. Hang on, let me look it up. It's the one with Wasp. It was the 90s one where Wasp and
Oh, I think I know what we're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, he's never really had a
He's
thing
never
for it.
in canon with the comic books
No,
ever wanted to hook up with her.
I don't remember that. I feel like I would have heard Namor Nation. So
United they stand right there. I think it was
and
United they stand.
small they are, small but mighty.
Um, on the flip side, though, moving away from the love interest, his major villains. What do you
Yeah,
think? You said Tiger Shark was your favorite.
Tiger Shark's my favorite. I think he's a total badass, and I love his design. Like some people think his design is very. I mean, it's very sign of the times. I mean, it's like this full body like suit with like orange and purple and like zigzags and like shark eyes and like a massive fucking fin. And I'm like, it's so cool. Like
I
he's
mean,
such
he
a bad.
looks badass, and his that Legends figure of him, it was gorgeous.
It's so cool. Like I love Tiger Shark. I think he's cool. Like they gave him an updated design where he's more of like a shark. It's
Mhm.
like a shark, a humanoid shark. It's all right. He looks kind of silly, in my opinion. He has like a big face. I feel like it should be more tighter and like angrier. He looks like King Shark from Suicide Squad. So,
Wait,
in
who
that
came
sense.
first? Who came first?
Well, I actually don't know that.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't track that. But yeah, he's my favorite. But another big one is a Tuma. That's kind of his Red Skull kind of deal. Like that's his
Yeah.
big opposite. Um, Atuma's really great, but he was kind of almost like mostly one dimensional for a very long time, just kind of like the barbarian king, like opposing Namor, wanting to conquer. Like he like there's like this prophecy within his tribe where it's like there will be one person who will conquer Atlantis finally, and he believes he's that person. Um, and he's I think he's cool. He's got an amazing character design. Like he's a cool guy. He's also
He
just
looks
like
great. I'm looking at photos of him
yeah,
right now as we're speaking. He
yeah, and
looks great.
he's so cool. He's got a sword. And what was really great about Bushiek's King in Black run was they finally go into a backstory, which was great because what the basic thing is, his people are nomadic people, and in that storyline, like his father and his tribes were like going to Atlantis to basically like I don't know the exact term, just like be annexed into their empire, and it was like a big thing because like they've always been separate, and what happens is when the black tide rolls in, everything goes to shit. Like most of his people are killed, so he's like has a very half his people are gone basically. His father's dead, and they have like this mythical like sea serpent, like dragon thing. It's like their it's a symbol of their people, and that gets killed by the black tide. And he takes the skull of the dragon and wears it as the helmet. So you kind of get an origin story for why his helmet looks like that because it's like
Wow, that's
the actual
insane.
dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get it, and what's really cool in that storyline too is it puts Namor and Atuma as friends at first. Like they like butt heads a little bit, but they're friends at first, and then after the Black Tide, he goes like he's like my people were slaughtered because of Atlantis, and he leaves, and that's kind of it. But you finally got a backstory. It only took like forever.
I love how much you know about all of this off the top of your head. I want the folks at home to know that we're working off of a mutual Google sheet, but there's only points in there, and I literally am just calling it off, and you are just hitting home runs with it. It's insane.
I love the character. I mean, I think he's so cool, and I love the world, and I wish it could be explored more. So I think, and I think, it's a positive if he does, get into the movies. Is him being a villain in the Black Panther movie my favorite thing in the world? No. But at the same time, if he does, it means he might get his own solo series. He might have more of spotlight within the Marvel comic universe, which I think it's worth taking the shot with an antagonistic role in like a movie where he's not really a villain.
They'll make
But
him. They'll make him
yeah,
simpatico. I'm trying to think of the word in English, but they'll make him simpatico. Like he'll be able to win over the audience if it's done well. And I think the rumor is that there will be another villain at play here
yeah,
who's really the villain, and people are going to unite against that villain. And if the rumors are true, it would be a big
Yeah.
villain. But we'll see where that goes. I don't want to spoil that for anyone today.
Yeah. But
What
there was
about?
rumors
Sorry.
of Namora and Atuma being in it. So my theory would be like, if he isn't it, maybe Atuma is doing something. But if there's an option would be the Kiver Island incident, which was in the Defenders
Mhm.
run, where Atlanteans were taking, doing, black market trades of vibranium in this whole incident. And it's only one issue, but I mean, that could be something because, the thing about Namor, he's not going to attack you unless you attack him first. Like, I feel like he has to be provoked to attack Wakanda. So that's my only hope. And I think it would be a third party, honestly, because I mean, if they want to do something with Namor, I feel like they're not just going to like they did a great job with Killmonger. Everyone loves Killmonger.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Killmonger is more of a standout than T'Challa. Like, I think, and I love T'Challa. R.I.P. But I that's why I'm okay if that Ryan Coogler is in charge of it. Like, we talked this previously, so I don't want to dive into that again. But I trust Coogler if he does bring in Namor. So
What about you, man? What do you think of you, man?
he's cool. I love his design. It's just like got the big ass fins and he's basically like his Nazi counterpart during like the Invaders era, because they were kind of, he was part of the Invaders and they kind of like were Nazi stompers and like all that stuff, and it was like really cool, like smashing Nazis and stuff. And U-Man was kind of like his version of like, getting the Atlantis involved, because U-Man supported the Nazis, and that kind of became a whole incident with Namor, obviously, because he's the Prince of Atlantis, and that's not okay. So, but I think his design is so cool. So I would love to see an updated version of that.
And how about Orca? I don't think I know anything about Orca.
Orca's really, he's interesting. He's like, he's a dum dum, is what I think he is.
Oh my god! I'm like, first of all, okay, I have no shame in admitting I've never seen this character before.
His design is so
What is this? Like, he's like, he's like Thanos wearing a whale costume.
He's a big dumb brute, is what he is. He he's basically, he's in cahoots with Dr. Dorcas, and I don't know how to describe it. He wears a silly ass costume, and he uses a lot of firepower, but he doesn't really have any motives, because he's just like follow man, he's just a brute force kind of for Dr. Dorcas, who is just a scientist who really can't fight him until he goes a little crazy, obviously. But so he's not exciting, unfortunately.
Okay, but yeah, no, I mean, look, the costume, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever cosplayed as him? Have you ever seen a cosplayer as him?
No, I mean, it's so unfortunate that some people have never really cosplayed. I've never seen a Dorma. I've never seen an Atuma. I've seen a tiger shark. I've seen one tiger shark, which is really cool.
I'm surprised that there hasn't been a Dorma.
I'm shocked myself. Like, she should be done. I think she should. Like, there's been Namorda and Namora. They've been done, and I've seen those, but I've never seen Dorma or any of that. I've never seen any of these villains, really. So, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
My cosplay.
I love all the hints that you're giving here. We're such stands of all your work and what you do. So,
you hit on you see Krang. I think I wrote that down. That's a big villain, actually.
Oh, yeah.
He's his warlord. He was in the animated series as well. He's the warlord. They have an off and on relationship, which I think is weird, because they're kind of buddy in around like Utopia era for a little bit, and he almost betrays him, but then you realize he shouldn't. But Warlord Krang has an obsession with Lady Dorma, and he hates Namor for that. The fact that Dorma is in love with Namor, so it's very, very early comic booky when it's all about like the girl and relationships with that. But he
reminded me of like the Norman Osborn type character.
He's smart. He's very smart, and he's planted coups many times, because Namor's always off the surface so many times. It's like, it's actually interesting because there's this comic series, 12 issues called Saga of the Submariner. And I think that should be, everyone should read that if they have any interest in Namor, wants to basically sum up most of his like, his original run. It just goes through everything and very quickly brushes over it. And it's so funny to just watch, like, I'm going to Atlantis, I'm going to go Service World. Then they kicked me out of Atlantis, so I'm going back to the Service World. But now I'm in Atlantis again. And he's like, boom, 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 boom. It's like, oh my God, he really just switched a lot. Like, keep him in one spot. That's what I love about the first Mutant and Bushiek's run and the Deep. They kept him in Atlantis and they developed that world more. And I want to see more world building. So
I mean,
I went on a tangent. I'm sorry. So
no, don't apologize. The people after the last episode know exactly who's on the show, and that is incredible. Please, we encourage you to have as many rants as you want. I don't know if you know Demanda Martini, but when Demanda's on here, she goes on her rants. The people know. Don't worry. This is I'm just looking at you and I'm like, yes, yes. You know. I'm rallying against with you. Excuse me.
Namor Nation. So got another one. So
what about I don't know how to pronounce this one. Byra.
Yeah.
But tell me about Byra and Lyra.
Oh, Byra and Lyra. That's back to back. They actually were in cahoots for a little bit actually too.
Hashtag cahoots.
Yeah. Cahoots against Namor. Byra is his evil stepbrother. He's been around for a very long time, and he's always been jealous of Namor, because Namor's the heir, and he hates that because he's like, Namor's not a true blood Atlantean because he's half Atlantean and half surface. And anyway, he hates him for that, and he's very mischievous and always tries to overthrow him. Like there was one time where he, which is really interesting because all the people start to hate Namor and they want him off the throne, and he's so confused by it and so hurt by it. And then Dorma, of course, as she always does, she finds out that he's using like a mind control ray on Atlantis. That's why everyone's against Namor and like wants Byra in control because they're under mind control. But again, Dorma isn't under mind control because she loves him so much. That's real love. Sue Storm could never.
Sue Storm is like, I'm sorry, I'm battling malice right now.
But you're a woman who really loves you. But anyway, so Byra does a lot of shit, and I'm surprised people don't see through his shit because he's got like the handlebar mustache, like, and like a little goatee. It's like he just like reeks of mischievous acts. So he's weird. But after he doesn't see much really after like in the modern age, to be honest. So it's unfortunate. So
what about his supporting cast of characters? Namora, Rita, Lord Vashti. Am I saying that right?
Lord Vashti.
Vashti. And one I've never heard of is Princess Fen, which we have talked about obviously tonight. But what are your thoughts on all of them?
Sure. We'll start with Lord Vashti. He is his like go-to guy. He is his rock. He is his like his counsel and his voice of consciousness in Atlantis. He actually started off as a lowborn, and Vashti helped Namor retrieve like the trident of Neptune, but then also at the same time while Krang was taking the throne during Namor's quest to find the trident to win back his people. Vashti was encouraging. He was like, "No, don't give up hope," because I don't know if I was in a story. I'm sorry. To give a little context, in this storyline, Krang overthrows Namor when he's not there, and Namor feels like he doesn't have his people, so he has to go on a quest for Neptune's trident, which is supposed to be like the end all be all. Like, you're the chosen one, you're the descendant of Neptune. You're the king. So he goes on a quest for that. Now let's go back to where I was. But anyway, so Vashti is like supporting people, telling him, don't worry, like Krang's horrible, but Namor's coming. He's not dead. He's coming for everyone to save us all. And after he comes back, he gets he's like, you were a big help to me. You're giving me my counsel. And he ends up being like a really big character. And he actually ends up being one of the 3 people who voted him out of the throne room.
Wow.
And which I think is okay. I mean, because eventually when he comes back to save Atlantis, he forgives him. He said it was the right decision. He's like, I wasn't ready to be on the throne, but now I am. And I think it's really beautiful. They got a great relationship. And then I would love to find a cosplayer to do him too. So if any older cosplayers wants to get blue. So I just want to do a whole Namor verse, because shoot, that's my goal. Get everyone in there.
I feel that like that would be achievable in today's world because cosplays are so much more dynamic now.
Yeah.
And you could, so we're putting that juju out there in the ocean that it will come back.
Yeah. Then I guess the next one. So Namora is his cousin, and her real name is Aquaria Nautica Neptunia, which I was like, why did they call her Namora if she's got a sick name like that? Like, if she's in the Black Panther movie, like rumored, I really hope they call her that, because I feel like it'd be really confusing for people. Like, wait, Namor and Namora, like, and then there's Namorda, like, you got anything original, like. You got a name like that, but she's cool.
A Roman spelled backwards.
A Roman.
Sorry,
you got it right there. She's A Roman. They were, best friend grew up. She's also half Atlantean, half surface dweller. So they became really close because they shared that relationship. She was also part of the Invaders for a little bit, but then she unfortunately died. And then she came back to life eventually. I don't know how, but she's back to life, and she's part of the Agents of Atlas right now. She's in Atlantis Attacks and a whole bunch of other Agents of Atlas stories. They did have a little bit of incest for like a hot second, which was weird.
You remember that story? I do remember that.
It's like, stop that.
I mean, listen, I'm a fan of Nate Gray with Madeline Pryor, and Nate Gray is an alternate version of Cable from the Age of Apocalypse. And Madeline Pryor is a clone of Jean Grey and the mother of Cable. So, like,
that's just so.
So you know what? Like, weirder things have happened in the Marvel universe.
Weirder things have happened. Intro, But so big shock was Namorda. So she is Namor's daughter, and for the longest time, we find out that she's a clone of Namora, and it's a huge storyline. It's like Namorda's like heartbroken, she's shocked. It's a big thing because we find out Namora couldn't have children because she was sterile, like Namor, because of their mixed blood. So because they're half us, like they can't have children.
Oh, interesting.
So Namorda,
fun fact.
Yeah, there you go. Little tidbit. But yeah, so Namor is a clone of Namora, but she's also her own person. She's kind of like, they're Namor's cousin, obviously, but it's almost like a brother-sister relationship more, because she's younger, and he kind of teaches her, and like, they have a really great relationship within like the 90s run. And I just think she's really cool. She's just fun, and she's like shopping and like all this shit, like clothes and all this, just basically like a 90s teen, essentially. But she's really cool. She hasn't been around in a minute either. And then finally, Princess Fen, that is his mother. So
okay, I was like, who the fuck is Princess Fen? It's his mom.
Yeah, she's his mom. She died, unfortunately, but it gets actually really fucked up.
Tell us everything.
The Savage Submariner around the 90s, super grunge. So basically, Namor has amnesia again. But when he gets it back, like this woman, this beautiful woman, like comes to him, and she's like, "I'm your mother." And as a reader, I'm like, that's really weird, because she's like young, she's hot, she's in the 90s, like she's not really wearing any clothes, like, and it's just like, I really don't believe that's his mother. And he didn't believe it. I was like, who are you, you like imposter?
Who are you really?
Like she wasn't. Fun fact. Basically, she's Sue Maquette's lover. I forget her real name. It's some random shit name, but Sue Maquette brought her back in the body of Fen from her grave, and switched them out, actually. So Fen was still alive the whole time, but she was in this decaying body in a mummy wrap, and
Interesting.
basically Namor goes and frees her, and they have like this beautiful moment before she dies again permanently. But I feel like I didn't explain that well because it's so complicated how
Yeah.
the logic of it works. But he was alive for like a little bit, and he had some closure, and it was really beautiful. Because the person who had his mother's body was just a complete psychopath. So it was great when she died.
Like by Felicia. It was
like,
great when she went swimming with the fishes.
She, I see what you did there.
Look at that. I know, take those shots at home.
You're probably listening on the podcast like, well, they're drinking a lot, but we're just not drinking.
Yeah, we're not drinking, guys, at home. You know, just the FYI. Although I think we had planned to. We had mentioned it, but
yeah, that's okay.
I drank a whole bottle the other night, so I'm good right now.
You're still reeling from the other day.
It's insane. Yeah. But anyways, I'm sorry. Continue.
Oh, that was basically it. You know, they have a great relationship together. He has, you know, I love that his parents, they were great. They weren't like Odin or anything terrible. He had a good family life. Although his grandfather was really hard on him. And that was actually forget about that. Holy shit.
Yes.
The first mutant, the first 6 dealt with the Equanos, I think that's how you say it. They're water vampires, sea vampires. Firstly, I don't like vampires in general, so it didn't really excite me because I don't care about them. But
I'm sure you love my Buffy reference.
Oh no, I don't mind them. I'm just saying I don't you know what I read them.
Well, you gravitate towards you, yeah.
I'm not like they're not. I don't hate them. I just like, you know, for instance, Blade. I was like, he doesn't really interest me because I don't really care for vampires. Like, I don't. Ooh, what's this about? Anyway, sorry. So he finds out like one of the like lead Equanos is actually like a vampire version of the Core, his grandfather, and it's actually a really good storyline because his grandfather's just like being like, I was like hard on you and like you're terrible, like, you know, you're not meant to be king, like, you know, I should be taking over, and like, you know, that now that I'm eternally living, like I can rule forever, and he's just like, you know, you're just a half-breed and all this stuff, and you know, Namor kills him in the end permanently.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so he kills him and just overcomes his terrible grandfather, which is, I think that's just an interesting and like on who writes it, because there's some storylines where like his grandfather's like loves him and like he's the heir and stuff. There's other storylines where he's like a hard ass on him. So it really depends on what storyline you think about. And so I just take it as I go. So whatever it is, I'll do it.
So my question, thinking of him during the different eras he's been in the Golden Age, it ends with him getting amnesia and just being homeless. Like that's how and then he's just in obscurity until Johnny Storm finds him.
Yeah, because
so they basically did what they did with Captain America with him, which is like they just put them in suspended animation, whether it's ice or being displaced in a housing front. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw an interview or I read an article about the decision to do that, and I think it was just, you know, they just needed an excuse to, you know, bring back Golden Age heroes or characters in like a way that was like, what have they been up to for the past 20 years? And it's like, oh, he's been homeless or he was trapped in ice. Like, it's just like, you know, because at that time, you know, it wasn't deep. It wasn't like interconnected, 100 different stories. It was just like, they read it for fun. It was just like, boom, boom, here it is. He's back. It. Burn off the beard. And, oh my God, it's Namor. No way. Throw him in the ocean. Like,
I can picture that panel in my head right now when Johnny started doing that like that. And then like Namor's all like somber there. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because it's so weird. It's like he burns off his facial hair. It's like, is that the best way to do it?
Like no.
Doesn't that smell like burning hair? Like, but what if he wasn't Namor, huh? Like,
yeah, what happens there? What if he doesn't got that bulletproof skin?
Oh, shit, damn it. On social media news. But I think, you know, when he came back, it was pretty cool because he went to go find his people and he found Atlantis destroyed from the whole Destiny thing, but he thought it was because of the nuclear bombs. So he basically, you know, had like the Horn of Proteus and called upon Giganto and basically tried to attack New York. as repercussions. So, which I think he's right in his own way. I mean, we previously discussed this. I feel like he has every right to attack the surface world.
Yeah.
You, bro. I support you. Like, get him back. So, like, one thing though, like one really good storyline is the 2019 Invaders run.
Yeah.
And what's great about that is he kind of wins almost, because usually he gets stopped like in his tracks before anything gets serious happens. But in Invaders, he firstly he's a total badass because he captured Hydro Man and like the villain and said, "You don't deserve the power of water. I'm the king of the oceans. I do." So he stole Hydro Man's powers.
God.
And so basically he's a total god mode. He can like there was one moment where his like council or something they didn't agree with him, and he was just like raised his hand and like took all the water away and he started choking, and then he like put it all back. He's like, "Okay, and are you done being like disagreeing with me?" Like it was so cool. I love that. But he basically turned a whole city into water breathers through this like gas and then flooded it. So it wasn't like he was killing them. He just turned them into water breathers and submerged the whole city. So it was a big deal because everyone's like, "Oh my God, how do we do this?" Like this whole city's like water breathers now, not by their choice. So it was really interesting to see him win. But you might like this. This is also the reason I hate Charles Xavier. In this run, so we find out Namor has this, obviously he has intense PTSD, and I love when they do storylines on that.
Yeah.
And he was not over this one death, like of a close friend that he thought he could save. And Charles Xavier is like, "Let me help you." And like, he's like, "This is like mental therapy, so you can talk to the person." He's like, "No, but he's not real. He's dead." And because of that, instead of helping him, he fucked him up even more.
Oh, did Xavier fuck up a pupil? Shocking.
Yeah, shocking. Big deal. Like, okay, I don't even like. I love like when I found your podcast and you like hate Beast and you hate Xavier or you don't like them. I'm just like, I feel so validated because I thought people liked them. Like everyone loved these people. Like, nope.
No, Beast, I think, is unanimously panned by X fans for how he is in the comic books. Animated Beast, he's doing just fine, or he was just fine, and people like Kelsey Grammer. But I think what's really what with Xavier is a lot of these questionable decisions that he's historically made. And what you're saying right now with Namor, like, "Oh, let me do some kind of like psychic therapy on you." And like Namor actually knows more than Xavier in this situation, where you're like, "Listen, you're going to do this psychic construct of someone that I miss and I love it. And I know it's not them. What is this going to do? It's just futile." And of course, you can just see Xavier on his high horse. We're like, "No, my treatment's right."
Yeah, he did without even asking him. So it just happened. And the crazy thing about that, though, was the therapy version of his friend who he lost ends up becoming like a villain almost. It sounds like a person like talking in your ear, and that's kind of where Namor goes a little bit crazy in Invaders, because he's not fully in control. Like there's this thing like basically just like controlling his head, like messing with his thoughts. And it's actually the Invaders run is really beautiful, honestly, because it's really just a story about friendship and like camaraderie and like brothers. Because like Namor's going nuts. He's obviously not in his right mind, but Captain America and the original Human Torch no, that's not him. They know something's up. And while the Avengers are trying to like stop him, they're just like, "Wait, let us deal with him. We can do this ourselves." And it's just really beautiful, like how they just really care about each other, and they're like a whole trio, and how much Namor respects Captain America and like everything. Like there was even this one thing in like Jason Aaron's run, he's not a great writer. Like there was this moment where Cap's like, "I don't want to fight you, Namor." He's just like, I'll let this go because I respect you." Like
I feel like I remember that moment.
Yeah, he was like fighting. It was like his first appearance in the 2018 Avengers run. Just like it was okay, but yeah.
When did Captain America and Namor hook up after they both came out of suspended animation? Were they shocked to see each other?
Well, what was really funny actually. So Namor found Captain America in ice, but he didn't know it was Captain America. I think it was like these like Inuits or like some sort of like, you know, like northern tribe like was worshiping this like ice creature in like the ice, and he like found his like screw you and your false gods or some, I don't know the exact wording of it, but it was basically something that was like you're false like idol, and like tossed into the ocean, and then the ice streamed down to New York City. Then we obviously know it's like, oh my god, it's Captain America. So he found Captain Ice and didn't even know it. So I just think this was so funny. So it's like, oh, guess I mean, and they eventually get the invaders back together many times and deal with like post-war people and all that stuff. I think honestly, like if you were to say his best team is with the invaders, I think, because they have this past that I think you can't get anywhere else because they were in the war together, and they have, and I love how they deal with like, you know, a modern story while also dealing with like their time in the war. I feel like you really get to touch on that and get to see the hardships of it. So that's what I love about the invaders in terms of Namor's addition to that, and just like who's left over, and like, you know, there's just, you know, they've been through some shit that no one else can ever say they've been through, and I think it's really interesting and kind of gives depth. Like I said before, it's PTSD, and I love when they go into that shit. I think it's just so smart
And
human.
and they go into that in the 80s run, do they? The Prince Namor run where they tackle him being homeless and his
Yeah.
PTSD for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's in the 80s run, it was, he was trying to figure out what happened. Like, you know, what he was asking himself, who am I, not only as a surface person, but like as a person. Like he goes, what happens is he's obviously in the palace, he's in the higher ground of Atlantis, you know, because he's a king. But then he goes to visit like one of like the lower levels, like the lower classes of Atlantis, and he has this moment of realization where he's just like, he has this relation. He sees this man, and he gets this memory about when he was a homeless man, and he knows what it felt like to be a homeless, and he becomes very remorseful about his actions a little bit, and how he's been portraying himself, because it's like, I failed these people. Like I shouldn't. This is my kingdom. Like he just hasn't seen it. He hasn't seen like the low life of Atlantis, and he did. And I think that's just really smart, because it's really great how they wrote it. Because like the first panel of issue 1 is like Namor's fighting like this like serpent and like this like battle ring, and it's like the whole thing, and everyone's chanting like Namor, Namor. Everyone's just like loving this guy, and you know he's, you know, you see him as like, oh, he's so cool, he's the king, everyone loves him. And then in this mini series, it's like 4 issues. It really just goes into what he is as a king, and what he's, how people really think about him, and going to the lower levels, and him relating to the people at the lower levels. So I think it was just really smart. I think it's a really well done mini series, because it just goes on what I love about him, just dealing with his monarchy and everything. I'd rather see a whole series on that than like him fighting anyone on the surface. So.
I'm actually trying to see if they have a trade for that online right now, because I want to buy that. That sounds incredible. Boom, right there. So what about when he gets into the 90s with that long, oh, right there.
Yeah. I got him. I got the whole 90s run.
Let's see. Oh, whoa. Let me see.
You got the omnibus.
I'm not a big fan of omnibuses, but that looks incredible. I'm starting to come around to omnibuses, by the way. You know, it's been a slow march for me, because I do read everything digitally, and if not, I like a good paperback. But talk to me about that monster you were just holding, the 90s run. What did you think of 90s Namor, especially with the hair? Are we going to see you grow out your hair?
No, I do not like long-haired Namor. I think it looks trashy, especially when he had the ponytail.
Who do you think he was? Nightwing?
No, it was just, please don't do that.
In this case, Nightwing had the ponytail first.
Oh, well,
I don't know. I'm making that up.
You know what? If that's you do you, because Nightwing can keep it.
Nightwing can keep it.
I don't. It was very 90s. You know, it's very
it was.
90s era. Because you can just tell based on the comic and the art and stuff how different it was during that time.
Oh yeah.
And like the grunge and like the darker elements. because you can see a real change like Omnibus, because it goes from very classic comic design to Savage Submariner, which is just dark and gritty and again grunge. So that's just I think it was a good run. I mean, it got into the surface world a little bit and dealt. It wasn't my favorite because I do prefer underwater stories, and he kind of just like the CEO of the company and like did stuff, and his villains were kind of meh. Like
I love that he's
villains,
the CEO of a company.
yeah,
When you said that last episode, I was like, Namor, which is
yeah,
such a 90s plot too.
it is such a, it's like the hook of it was just like Namor's dealt with everything that's below the surface. Now he's dealing with the upright business world of the surface, and his like big villains are like the Mars siblings or something, and they're just like that's who's we go from a Tuma and Tiger Shark to the fucking Mars siblings who are just like business people. Like, come on. But it was good. They had some good storylines. They dealt with Namorda being a clone, like just all there's a couple hidden gems, and then once they get into the more savage Submariner vibes, I think that's where it kind of takes off, because if we go back to this underwater world, we deal with Sumaket, we deal with like him return to Atlantis, and we get more world building because we learn about like their dark history before Neptune came along, and I think you got that right. And then also Tiger Shark comes back. He looks weird as hell though. He doesn't have his big fin. He's like little spikes.
Our boy needs that fin.
He needs the fin.
I'm all of a sudden like the biggest fan of him right now.
Shark is so cool. So like he looks sick. He's like dark, has like these massive spikes, and but then like his head has like little spikes everywhere instead of like one massive fin, which is what he needed. You're so close.
So close.
Just, head pieces they just missed in that era. Long hair, no fin. Like count me out. But it was definitely an interesting era how they switched it up a little bit. And I wasn't a fan of the costume either of the era. I mean, it looked cool, but it was like really weird. It was like this crazy gold armor with like these skulls on them. But then like his costume was weird because it was like I think it was like gold pants or something with like a green crotch.
Sure. Okay.
Was,
yeah.
Like, just in the crotch. And I was like, that just looks so ugly. Like this looks like do the whole or just don't do it all. Like who thought of that? So
I don't. The 90s was a curious time with some of those looks.
Everyone was just experimenting in their time, but it is what it is. I mean, I enjoyed it for the most part. So, and then the modern age.
The modern age, yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Initiative era?
I love the Initiative. I thought that honestly, I think was the greatest in terms of world building that we had so far. Because not only was like the art more modern, but you got to see these amazing like designs and stuff, and Atlantean like what's the word? Guest designs, really just like what their areas look like. Just more detailed. Like their clothes are really cool. Like they just felt unique finally, and like I really liked what they did with that, even though they kind of blew it up in the end, which I thought was silly. But I think it was really cool and just kind of dealt with Namor being a monarch again, which is what I like the best, honestly. And dealing with his past, and also how he handles like Shield being like total a-holes during that whole era. I think that was like Civil War era, I believe.
Yeah.
When he starts
exactly
Shield, and he was being a dick. Like he was doing like, dude, I didn't do it. I'm telling you, I didn't do it. And he's like, well, we should occupy Atlantis anyway. And he's like, I didn't do it, and I'm not going to attack you. And he's just like, well, blah blah blah. And he's like, all right, well, that's when he gets his big Neptune armor, and then just goes after Tony Stark. And it's like, yes, kick his ass. He deserves it. Like, I'm telling you, I didn't do it. Like, why don't you believe me? Like, I'm not in Kansas. That's in the middle of nowhere. Why would I be there? Like,
why would I? There's no body of ocean anywhere there. Like geographically speaking. Come on, Tony.
Like, just because this Atlantean tech doesn't mean I did it.
Yeah.
So, decision for that. But that was really cool. But that started Krakoa, or not Krakoa.
The Utopian era. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Namor on it, as we said. Like, I think he brought a really great dynamic to the team. And I like the history with Emma. I thought it was something that was well done. I think for reasons we have discussed, there are two characters who really gravitated towards each other because they're regal and hot as fuck. They're going to walk into a room. You're going to look at them. They got swag. The amount of swag. And I love Emma would end up with someone like Scott because they're both mutually good for each other. But
Mhm.
Emma's type is someone like Namor. Like she
Oh
wants
yeah,
to date the fucking king who sometimes has amnesia, you know, and
yeah.
they will just go to parties together and they would be that strong power couple. So that era was really great. I love the relationship they had with
Oh
Hope
yeah.
Summers. You know, I think Hope was a character that a lot of people were watching at the time because they thought it was the reborn Jean Grey. But Namor has even shaded Jean in the past. He was here like, I can't believe these men fight over such a generic looking woman. And I love Jean, but you know what? I love a good shading first. And you know what?
Yeah, how did you feel about that? Your God Queen.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, that was the first thing I thought about when she came back and she went to Atlantis. I was like, is Namor going to shade her? I was kind of disappointed that Tom Taylor wrote their interaction sort of mild. I was
Yeah.
thinking, I was hoping he would be a little bit more shady towards her, but um, I thought Namor being on the X-Men was phenomenal. I'm sad what we saw
Yeah.
with Hellfire, the Hellfire Gala recently, because I'm like, I just don't believe that Namor, even if he is king of 70% of the planet and that horrible line we've discussed, I
Yeah.
still think he would participate in the diplomacy of Krakoa. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
he would be have a vested interest in his ex-girlfriend running the Hellfire Gala and being a major player on the council there. And I don't know, have they tackled Krakoan drugs in Atlantis? They must have. But I'm just I
No.
know I know mute I know Atlanteans don't need longevity, but do they have diseases of the mind? You know what I mean? Like
Um, no, they
that
haven't actually,
that
unfortunately.
Krakoan drugs could help. So I don't, and how about this? Even if let's just say those elements aren't at play here with Krakoa and Atlantis, like play ball with a really rich power that's coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you are a kingdom, you are a monarchy, you do have to play on this planet with other people.
I mean, because he respects other monarchs. I mean, like, because like I see some people like when Black Panther was rumored, people were like, they would reply to me when I would say something on Twitter, like, no, he hates like Black Panther. They hate each other. I'm like, no, actually, Namor respects T'Challa because he's a king, he's a monarch. He respects Doom because he's a monarch. Like he respects other monarchs as a monarch. So that's why I mean I agree with you 100%. Like you're right. Like why the writer just totally dismissed it as like Namor being an asshole when he should be seeing, because Utopia era, he's supporting his people as he thinks he can help, and I agree with you 100%. Just like, what is he doing? Like, he should be happy for them. They're thriving.
And you bring up this valid point that I forgot about in the notes here, that he attacks Wakanda not out
Yeah,
of spite, but because Hope Summers, the Messiah mutant, is on Wakanda. So that's why, and he has a
yeah,
vested interest in her safety and getting her back with the
yeah.
mutants.
It's just like that's the thing too. I always reply to people. I stopped doing it on Twitter because no one gets it. It's like when people say, oh, they'll be like I'll be like Namor's not a Black Panther villain. Then they'll be like reply like, oh yeah, well look at this, and it's just that first shot of him like over Wakanda. I'm like, all right,
From AVX. Yeah.
let's do a basic research, shall we? Okay, shot before Emma Frost tells him Hope Summers is in Wakanda. Doesn't tell Cyclops. Namor goes and does it himself. Hope Summers, the Messiah, the first mutant born. Of course, they're going to go find her. The
Yeah.
Avengers took her from him. So he goes to Wakanda. He could have gone to Kunlun. He could have gone to Europe. He could have gone to Kansas. And he would have done the same thing. Like, it just happens.
We know how much he hates Kansas, apparently.
He hates Kansas. But he does that. So and it's also the Phoenix talking too. The Phoenix wants hope. So, and then we also look later on in AVX Consequences, and he's talking to hope, and he's just like, it's so tragic because he's like saying like, like I hated feeling small, I hated feeling weak, that this fire was burning inside of me and I couldn't do anything about it. And like, I forget, it might have been an X-Men Red, I don't know the exact one, but he was talking with Jean Grey about the Phoenix, and he was just like, he's like, I'm a king, like, and he's just like so depressed about what happened with the Phoenix. He's like, and I think Jean's just like, you're a king, but it burned you all the same, which I think it just says something about the Phoenix in terms of just like, he didn't attack it because he hated T'Challa. It's like, the Phoenix is an entity.
Yeah,
like
it burns away what doesn't work. That is one of the main dogmas. It's a universal cosmic force that's operating under rules and order that mere humans have no idea of what that is. It's like getting angry at a hurricane for making landfall, right? That's what the Phoenix is. And something that was established in New X-Men was that the Phoenix burns away what doesn't work. To what degree that was being played in AVX, we let the reader decide that. But that's all to say that the Phoenix was possessing Namor. It was a very complicated situation for him. He does not hate Wakanda or Black Panther. He is not an enemy of either's, because it was just literally a plot device to get to move the story along. A half-baked plot device.
Literally. Jason Aaron at his finest.
So, how do you feel about him after AVX?
I read Hickman's New Avengers, and I read that whole era. I really enjoyed it. I think it's interesting because it's one of those things where it happened and you got to deal with it, and I kind of like it because, like, at the time, it was a storyline, so there wasn't this whole MCU backing. It was just like what was happening in the moment. And I kind of liked how they just didn't just abandon the whole plot line of he attacked Wakanda and he's now in the Illuminati and he's with T'Challa a lot. And I love this. There's this one scene where, like, Namor rolls up to Wakanda and like the Dora Milaje are around and Black Panther's around. And he's just like, if you weren't here because we need you, I will fucking kill you. It didn't say that exactly, but it was basically just like, he threatened the hell out of it. Like, I will kill you at the end of this. Like, I need you now. I don't like it, but I will kill you. Like, because he did destroy Wakanda. I mean, you don't just like, brush it off and be like, that's the Phoenix for you. Like, it's still a person. You got to direct your hate towards someone. Yeah. So I'd like to dealt with the fallout a little bit of that. So
yeah, and I'm fine with the fallout of something like that. Here's a question: because of Wakanda and Namor is at our forefront. Did you think in Endgame when they had that line about there's earthquakes off the shores of Wakanda? Did you in the water? Did you think that was a Namor reference initially?
I mean, I was just like, I kind of thought it was more. I saw that rumor, but I thought it was kind of just more a way to show like how much Black Widow is trying to do in that moment, because she's just like, oh yeah, I want to do something. Like, what are we doing about it? And like Okoye is like, it's an it's like it's an earthquake. You do nothing about it. I didn't think of it as Namor. I thought of it more as like, Natasha is just really just trying to fix everything she can, and this one's out of her control. So
I agree. That's how I initially took it as well. And at the time, I don't think his film rights had been sorted. Do you know anything about the film rights historically?
I know they're back at Marvel, I think. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they are, because we did find on Twitter that there was a Namor movie or like official Namor or something, like a Twitter hold name. Like, how like sometimes Marvel films will like make a Twitter and just always be like vacant, just like they have a name hold. So, they can't have someone like me do like Namor official and Namor cosplay. That's taken. Sorry.
Sorry, you can't take it. That's it. Called dibs back in January 2021.
I was the first.
It was vacant for that long.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look like on like Google or Twitter or Instagram, like there's not many Namor cosplayers. Like there's only, I think there's one other guy I know on Instagram who does Namor, but he just does a Speedo. We're the only people cosplaying Namor currently, and there's like a million Wandas. So,
are there a million Wandas? I had no idea.
there are a million Wandas on Instagram. They all look fantastic. No,
Yeah.
they look great. But it's just so interesting. And I'm also interested to see what happens if he gets in a movie, because I mean, it'd be great to see other Namor cosplayers do him and see like how they would interpret themselves. So I'm not the only one. So it'd be cool to see what what they come up with. Or the boom, as I was speaking with someone about it, you notice it on the sharing pages, like when a show comes out, like everyone's doing Loki, everyone's doing Zemo or Falcon, or everyone's doing this, blah blah blah,
And
like Widow, Natasha, Yelena. So it goes on with strides. So eventually, if he gets in a movie, there's going to be a Namor boom, there's going to be an Eternals boom, and everyone's going to do everyone. So that's just the way of it.
well, Power of X-Men, we have no one but Wanda to thank for our putting gas in our engine, because it really, anytime we posted something of Wanda, the amount of engagement that came in, people just loved Wanda. It was insane.
Coming.
Yeah, no one saw it coming. Wanda was. I've loved Wanda for a while. It's great to see your favorite character be beloved by so many people. But it's, I agree with you. I mean, think about a couple of years ago, you saw a lot of Star-Lords, and Star-Lord was a really big character when Guardians of the Galaxy 1 came out. Everyone was doing it, and it was great. So I think Namor will have his time. I can't wait for the X-Men to have their time. That's going to be insane. When the X-Men arrive, that's it. All bets are off.
I want to see the X-Men come to life, but I want to see it with like Cyclops and Jean like leading the charge. Like I love Wolverine, but I feel like Wolverine should be like a background character, just like oh, that's Wolverine, sneak, and like he does his shit, he does his Wolverine stuff, but like the focus is on Cyclops, because I feel like no one outside the comics respects him, and Cyclops is one of my favorite X-Men. So
well, he's a great character. Cyclops is always right on this podcast.
Cyclops is like the perfect blend of Xavier and Magneto.
Yeah. And he does what he's a byproduct of their conflict and their ideologies.
You said it. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, that's what I love. I mean, what's been great about this your podcast is I found it at the beginning of like my X-Men binge, when I was just like obsessed and just finding so many. I was just like Michelle Waffle, I think, reposted you, and I was like, oh, there's an X-Men podcast. Like, I need to know more. Like, I'm interested in these people now. I want to learn everything I can. So that's why I kind of got, found your podcast through her, and it was cool, because now I'm like, I haven't read a lot of the Hellfire stuff yet, because I'm still catching up, but I feel like I know everything that's been going on through listening. And I know
it was intense.
Video comes out, and I'm gonna get that.
Really? Well, we're gonna have to have you come on and guest, because we're going to be covering Trial of Magneto every week as it's being published, as well as Inferno. So
I'm so curious. I don't think he did it.
I agree too, but we're going to save that for the next the next episode, because you're obviously never going anywhere. You're part of the Power of X-Men familia now. But here's my question for you. I feel like we have covered Namor. 4 hours later, we have gone deep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, with Namor. Where do you see his future going? Where do you see Namor going?
I think it really depends on what happens in the MCU, really, because I feel like that's how it usually goes.
Yeah.
Or if it ends up being a total fluke, which, I mean, I actually feel like, even though I'm not fully in support of a Black Panther villain turn for him, I feel like we're so deep into these rumors, and there's no debunking, and they just seem to be more and more real. I think I'd be really disappointed if he wasn't in it. This is funny, but I do think he will have his own solo series. I mean, King in Black, I don't know how it was received, but I mean, we loved it. It was really well done. I think I would like to see a solo series kind of delve into more of the Atlantean side of him. And I think maybe if they do get into the MCU and they want to push a Namor agenda, I think they would kind of develop more of Atlantis, because again, like Wakanda, people loved it because of what Kugler and his production team did. They did a beautiful job with it. So I think if they do a beautiful job with Atlantis, they might want to explore it more, and it might be more vibed with the movie. I don't know. I'm just guesstimating, but I would just like to see something underwater. Like I said in the last episode, I'd love to see like Game of Thrones-esque. Like,
Oh yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, given everything we've learned about Namor in today's episode, it is Game of Thronesy. There is a backbone there that's very Games of Thronesy with stepbrothers, brothers, everything there, warring, factions. I think that the thing here that's missing is that we need more of Atlantis, and I agree with you. I think we will get an Atlantis focused title if he
yeah,
becomes big in the MCU.
I hope he does. I mean, because there's also a lot of different factions of undersea people. There's the Lemurians, and I forgot they appeared in one issue in like the Deep. But there's also this other faction that were like, they didn't like Atlantis. But I just feel like there's so many other, the ocean is a huge part, and they just haven't explored that realm as much. So I'd like to see that more personally, because I think the surface stories are tried and true at this point. He goes on the surface, he fights a couple people,
He
and
may or may not get amnesia.
yeah, exactly. He gets amnesia as many times as he's left Atlantis and come back. So I'm just like, all right, please stop that trope. Like, I hope they don't do that trope in the movies. That and Sue. No Sue.
No Sue.
Amnesia, no Sue. We're team anti Sue. Like you're so anti Beast. Like I'm so anti Sue.
I mean, listen, Sue is not a mount I will die on. I enjoy Sue. Actually, I have a Marvel Legends Sue that I got after the Hasbro reveal because I want all the Sues.
I don't hate her as a character. I just hate her with Namor. So.
That's a very good point.
What I will say to you that with the whole Beast situation, there's this moment in, I think it's at the end of Second Coming, where Hank like leaves like after the whole events of Second Coming, and he's just like, why are you leaving your people? He's just like, I don't agree with what Cyclops did. And Namor like calls him out on his shit, and he's just like, you're leaving your own people, like what the fuck? And I think that says like miles about Scott Summers as a leader, because you have a king who doesn't like to follow orders, he does what he wants. He's Namor, and I love how he's defending Scott Summers as a leader, and he's following what Scott in general, and you don't get that often with him, where he was going to respect someone enough to follow orders, like,
well, and Scott did a good job during the Extinction arc. You know what I mean? Like, so Namor acknowledges that, because I'm sure Namor's like, fuck, I don't know how I would have handled that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and he saw the how tactful he was, and also that Emma was there too and present. So, Beast, fuck Beast. Of course he would say something shitty like that. I don't know. Beast is always going on the Avengers, the Inhuman side. I'm like, fuck off, man. Like, you're done. And listen, Namor, one of my favorite, like, well, he's mutant, but non-traditional X-Men. When, he brought in our God Queen when she was, on the run in X-Men Red. That's it. He's A-list. But again, I thought him and Emma were so hot. That's when I really took off with the character. I loved him during Gillian's run. I thought it was great. Yeah. My hope would be that he kind of circles back on Krakoa in some way, shape, or form. Because I was curious about that. Like, I think that was one of the first questions I asked was, is Namor on Krakoa or is he in Atlantis?
We kept waiting to see him in the lineup for all the Hellfire Gala reveals, and we were just like, oh, that's depressing. He's on armor. I mean, I think it's partially my reasoning in terms of why Namor works best in his solo series, because if you get the wrong writer, they'll use just like these Namor tropes where he's Namor, he's a womanizer, he's very self-involved with himself, like, and he's arrogant, and I feel like if you get the wrong writer and he's like a background character, they're just gonna do the trope, because it's like no real plot in the story. They're just like, oh, it's Namor, let's have him say something very Namor-y. And I think that's what is a failing of him in some of his like team ups, because it's just like they just toss him as like a side character, just like he's gonna say something that Namor would say, and then people are gonna get a kick out of it. But it's like it doesn't develop anything that should be developed. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. I would like to see him go back. I mean, I heard there are Hellfire Gala. There might be multiple, like
Yeah.
every year thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe next year he gets.
Let's see him next year. Maybe he can get a do-over on the green carpet.
Yeah, I would love that. I was waiting for. I was like, okay, if this happens, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna cosplay this immediately. Like,
Yeah, and do it. Well, especially since in House of M, when they had the gala in House of M, he came out looking very regal in it as well. And I don't understand. It's listen, I get it. There's only so much you can design and put into something, but
yeah,
I think most people, one of the takeaways, if people were nitpicking at the Hellfire Gala, was Namor in it and what he was wearing.
it's like even like this old one where he's just like in a cape and a speedo
Yep.
and like.
Well, that's my favorite look of his. I love him in the
I
speedo
love
and the
that.
cape. I love it. I love the regalness of that.
And I got my cape right there.
All right.
You, I don't know if breaking anything. I was actually really proud of this cape. If I can get it off the table without breaking anything. But it's really easy. But so I found like this like Greek pattern at like
that's gorgeous.
LA. Because originally it was just gonna be like red velvet, like it should have been. But I found this when I was looking for like the Speedo scales in downtown LA Fashion District, and I was like, I have to double side this. And
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite things I've ever made, actually, even though it's so easy. And I got like this little medallion I made with like that, and like the the rope and the
like spotlight you.
It's my thing.
That's gorgeous. Well, you are one of my favorite cosplayers. It
Well,
is.
thank you.
Cannot believe we are here talking almost on 5 hours about Namor. We started at 11, right? 11, 12, 1, 2. Oh, okay. So, 3.5, 4. But
still a lot. One character.
No, it's fine. No, I love it. Since this is the end of part 2, remind folks listening where they can find you.
Well, you can find Your Highness at.
I'm sorry. Wait. Let me take it from the top again. Your Highness, where can people find you?
You can find your kingship at Namor Cosplay on Instagram and Twitter. I mainly use Instagram. I use Twitter occasionally just to interact with some folks, but follow me. I got a bunch of new content coming out. I got a new shoot coming out next week.
Can't wait.
With Dale Altman, who's a great photographer. So yeah, I mean, it's honestly, I'm just so excited that we get to talk, because this is like my first like big cosplay like interview or like conversation, which is really fun, because you don't really get to talk about this stuff with other people you're friends with, or I don't, at least, because I have great friends, but like cosplay is just like a one conversation situation. It's like, oh, what are you making? Oh, I'm doing Namor, I'm doing this. Like, oh, cool, that's nice. And I mean, we had a whole almost 2 hours talking about cosplay. I mean, that's what I love about the Instagram community. Because it's just like you can find people who are like-minded, and now I can go to cons whenever they come back and meet other people, because I usually just go with friends, or now I can go and interact and meet other people. And so Instagram is great.
I agree. The Instagram community has been wonderful. I'm like you, I'm not on Twitter as much. Like I tried to. I tweeted something and I got an insane amount of like views on it. It was like 16K views. It was like a He-Man and Sailor Moon comparison video or something like that. But and then I was like, oh, maybe there's something here. But I was like, oh man, I can only do one platform. That's and Instagram is a little bit more intuitive for me. But before we go, do you say the magic words?
Imperious Rex.